Alrighty, testing. Is this thing on? 1, 2, 3, 4. What's going on, people? What's up? What's happening, y'all? Can you all see me? Can you all hear me? Let me know, fam. Let me know down below. Hold on. Where the heck did the chat go? This is crazy. Let me go ahead and pop this out. Bring this bad boy over here. Alrighty. Excellent. Okay. All right. I'm seeing a lot of the homies pop up. What's good, y'all? What's up? Oh, shout out to the homies. We live on a Tuesday evening. That's what it is, y'all. That's what it is. What's going on, people? Oh, snap. We got the homie K-Cube in the chat. Kwaku. I know I already wished you this, man, but happy birthday once again, my friend. You turning like, what are you turning, like 21 at this point? Yeah, this man Kwaku never ages. This man looked the exact same way when I first met this dude like 10 years ago. This shit crazy. I'm telling you, man, it's them African genetics. That black don't crack. Oh, snap. We got the homie Attack on Gamer Pierre with the $2 super chat. Crazy year in gaming. What a time to be alive. Appreciate the super chat, my brother. And yeah, this it's been a wild year, to say the least. From 2021 into 2022 with all these acquisitions, it's been crazy, man. But it's good to see everybody. It's good to see everybody for this stream. It's not really going to be a regular ass Neo stream, because this one we have an actual topic that I definitely want to spend a lot of time discussing. So I decided I might as well make this its own stream, so that way if people want to get my full thoughts on it, they can hear it, and then we'll have Ask Neo, a proper Ask Neo session a little later on in the week, just to make sure, you know, we satisfy all bases. But yeah, we're gonna do a little bit of chatting for the next 5 minutes while we go ahead and get some people into the stream. I should have automatically, or not automatically, I should have made sure I tweeted this on Twitter beforehand, but you know me, man. This boy Neo, always after the fact. All right, let me just go ahead and retweet the last tweet. There we go. And we live, baby, and we live. All right. But what's going on, people? What's up? Who we got in here? We got Flame. We got Michael G. We got Megas456. We got Black Star Goat. We lit. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got NKDN in the chat. We got Rafi Grant. Silver Wolf 26. Rhino checking in from the Mets game. Oh, my gosh. Showing support. Man. Hey, listen, the Mets need all the support they can get, my friend. Let's see, we got Artsy Avanti, we got Juan Castillo. It's on like Donkey Kong, man. We got, speaking of Donkey Kong, the DK Mario link. Yo, what's up? All right, let's see, Darth Praxis in the chat. We got the homie Wesley. All right, and HD Boom Bap. Oh shoot, Amazing JD is in here as well. What's going on, player? We got a $2 super chat coming in from Flame. 2 Ask Neos will definitely satisfy me. Wink, wink. Hey yo, this guy Flame. We haven't even been streaming for 10 minutes, and this guy Flame. I mean, what can I say? Flame is a very consistent individual. Oh, snap. Narukami 2D was good. Red Dragon Emperor Ash, what's up? J World, like the video. Yeah, that's right, you guys. So before we get into the topic for tonight, if y'all could do me a favor and hit that like button, it helps out the channel tremendously, helps send this stream into the ether, and you know the usual jazz, bring people into this nation of ours. We just started streaming right now, so, you know, throughout the course of the night, I'll occasionally remind y'all to do that, you know, just the simple stuff. JMac19, what up? Yes, sir. Alrighty. We got Winterford Studios. Deus Ex is rescued. Yes, the Avengers game is the reason why the Deus Ex franchise got put on hold by Square-Enix. Yeah, there is a lot of stuff that we gotta, I got my own personal thoughts on Square-Enix's managing and handling of all of these legacy. I mean, Deus Ex is damn near legacy IP at this point, man. We haven't had a new game in, bro, we have not had a new game in almost 10 years. It's crazy. And yes, I know the last game came out in 2016, but it's been 6 years. It's officially over 5 years, and in my mind, that's almost 10 years. So let me have this, especially after what they did to it. Oh, we got James Lewis in the chat. What up? Looking forward to Legacy of Kain. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to get excited about with this acquisition, or at least the potential for excitement, the potential for things away from Square Enix's management. Okay, but I'm seeing a lot of the homies in here, so we might as well just get into the topic, and people will come through as I do the intro of things. But welcome everybody, welcome to this little impromptu stream. This is going to be another one of these topic streams where I take a particular topic of news in the media that is of great relevance and great importance to me personally, and I speak about it at great length. So this is not going to be a typical Ask a Neo stream where we're on here and we're just asking questions and we're hanging out. This one is going to be a lot more structured. There is a flow, there is rhyme and reason to everything. So I'm going to be talking about something. I'm not really going to be focusing too much on the chat until a little later on in the post show, where I take y'all's comments and we talk about things, we hash some things out. Maybe if there was something that I forgot to mention, you guys can bring me up to speed on that, because throughout the course of this stream there are going to be a couple of things that I don't personally know the status of, and maybe some news has come out in the past couple of hours to answer said questions. So that's going to be the structure of the show. Let's just go ahead and get into the topic for tonight. We are going to be discussing the recent sale and acquisition of damn near every single one of Square-Enix's Western studios by the Embracer Group. So this was something that broke yesterday morning. It just seems like every single, I don't know what it is about like the Tuesday. Well, obviously, if you look at the way news is aggregated in the cycle, it's like either Monday morning, Tuesday morning, or if it's really bad news, Friday evening. That's when a lot of the major news comes out. We learned that Square-Enix was going to be selling Eidos Montreal, Square-Enix Montreal, and Crystal Dynamics, three of those studios, all of their developers, and the IPs to the Embracer Group. Now, if that name doesn't really sound familiar to you, you're wondering like, who's the Embracer Group? Embracer Group is basically our new overworld lords, or overlords of video game publishers. These guys, people want to talk about Microsoft potentially having a monopoly on the video game industry with the Activision acquisition. You got to look at Embracer Group and look at how many developers these guys own, and within them, how many teams they own. It's astonishing, to say the least. But Embracer Group for the past couple of years has been, I don't even want to say quietly acquiring studios behind the scene. They've been gobbling up studios behind the scenes. I believe their last major acquisition was Gearbox Software, the guys who've worked on Borderlands, and now they've purchased 3 of Square Enix studios. And it's so funny because we were just talking about the potential possibility for Crystal Dynamics to be sold off to another studio. A lot of people were speculating that Microsoft would acquire them, and then boom, here we go. Embracer Group acquired them. It was either Embracer Group or Tencent. Those are the two entities right now when it comes to gaming that are on an acquisition spree, just buying things up left and right. But Embracer Group, in my honest opinion, got away with a really good deal on these studios. So I'm going to go ahead and switch screens right here to the news portion. As you can see, we have a lot of articles right here to go through because there is so much stuff hold on, let me just I don't know why this is not, hold on, Jesus Christ, now I just gotta reset. No, hold on. Oh, actually that makes things a little more convenient. All right, cool, there we go. Just gotta resize on the fly. Boom, wait, boom, there we go. Like I said, one-man show. Boom. All right, but anyways, so this is coming from Embracer Group's website, embracer.com, which is their press release about them acquiring the company. So I'm going to do a little bit of reading here, nothing too crazy for y'all. I'm not going to sit here and read the entire thing ad nauseum, because there's frankly a lot of stuff here that really is just, regular legal mumbo jumbo, and this is what we're acquiring it for, blah, blah, blah. And we're talking about the studios and the legacy and the history and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm just going to paraphrase a few things. I'm going to tackle a couple of things that I found are pretty interesting, and then some things we're going to circle back to later on when we get through all of these other tabs as well. So the Embracer Group has entered into an agreement to acquire the development studios Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, Square-Enix Montreal, and a catalog of IPs, including Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Thief, Legacy of Kain, and more than 50 back catalog games from Square-Enix Holdings. In total, the acquisition includes around 1,100 employees across 3 studios and 8 global locations. 3 studios, 1,100 employees, Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Thief, and Legacy of Kain, in addition to all of their other miscellaneous titles. Acquiring all of that with a total purchasing price of $300 million US dollars. $300 million US dollars on a cash and debt-free basis to be paid in full at closing. $300 million. Can we just think about that for a second? Look back to some of the other acquisitions that we've had. Like, I mean, the thing about a lot of the acquisitions that we've been seeing, at least on the more like the widespread scale that makes the headlines, you know, you look at like an Activision Blizzard, you look at a Bethesda, you look at a Bungie, things that are in the billions upon billions of dollars. And to acquire 3 studios, all of their IPs for $300 million, that seems like chump change by comparison. Now, obviously, you kind of have to qualify a couple of those previous acquisitions. Some of them were the companies overpaying to secure those things to make it more enticeful. Like, hey, we'll pay you extra money just to sell. Some of them were also putting up more money to retain the employees, as Sony did with Bungie, you know, to retain talent. But $300 million here, I feel kind of like Embracer Group, they made out like a bandit because they got so much stuff where if you look at it from another point of view, like for example, when we were, you know how I mentioned we were talking about Crystal Dynamics and how there was the idea that Microsoft was testing them out of sort. They were flirting with them because, you know, they're handling a bulk of the development for the new Perfect Dark reboot. The idea that they could potentially acquire Crystal Dynamics after they, you know, flirt for a bit. The game comes out, it's hopefully successful, we can fold in Crystal Dynamics. Because it's not like Crystal Dynamics really got anything else going for them right now. I mean, they just announced they were working on a new Tomb Raider game, but before that, their last game that they worked on was The Avengers, and yeah, more on that later. But yeah, to bring up the fact that Crystal, we were talking about them maybe being acquired by Microsoft. There was the one thing that always stopped the discussions, at least in, you know, the whole armchair analyst video game industry, was the Tomb Raider IP. Tomb Raider is a very successful franchise, as we'll note on later on. It's sold millions upon millions of units across its legacy, whether it's the new reboot or previous titles. So if you wanted to get Crystal Dynamics and that IP, you were looking at a lot of people saying the acquisition would be north of $500 million. There were some people who were saying that acquisition could be valued at $1 billion. That's what a lot of people were thinking, you know, even myself included. I was thinking Crystal Dynamics bare minimum is probably a couple $100 million. But evidently that's not the case in this situation. Square-Enix was willing to part with all of that for just $300 million. But there's a couple of things here that are just really interesting. So right here, it talks about the IP portfolio. It gives you a couple of stats and updates to some stats that we were kind of wondering as fans of some of these franchises for a while. We were wondering the sales of it. Because one thing that we've learned about Square-Enix, if there's one thing that we have learned about Square-Enix over the past couple of years, is they have a tendency, call it a knack for, how should I say this? They have a knack for their games failing to meet expectations, right? And the bulk of the games that they always said failed to meet expectations were from their Western divisions. I remember this back in 2013, when they first rebooted Tomb Raider. The game sold a couple million units within the first, I believe, couple of weeks, couple of months. It sold very well for not only a reboot of a franchise. Ooh, and shout out to the homie Megas for the super chat right here, $4.99 super chat. Appreciate that. I'll get to that in a little bit. Again, one-man show here, so I have to go ahead and adjust some of the things. But, you know, that game had sold a couple million units, more than most games would sell in their entire lifetime. But according to Square-Enix, they viewed that as a disappointment, which prompted us to wonder exactly how a game that sells a couple million units on its release is a disappointment. Like, what were your expectations for this game to sell? Were you expecting it to sell Final Fantasy numbers? Were you expecting it to sell GTA, Red Dead Redemption, Rockstar numbers? Because selling a couple million units for a game that is basically a new IP, you did reinvent the Tomb Raider franchise with the new game, it was very strange, but we thought nothing of it because they announced that it was getting a sequel. And then it happened again. Failure to meet expectations. And it kept happening over and over and over again, whether it was Tomb Raider, whether it was its sequels, whether it was Deus Ex Human Revolution, whether it was Mankind Divided, whether it was The Avengers, whether it was Guardians of the Galaxy. Every single one of Square Enix's Western games had failed to meet expectations. But if you look at the sales for these games, these franchises have been doing very well. So right here, Tomb Raider has sold in excess of around 88 million units. Now, obviously, that's complete lifetime sales for the entire franchise, a franchise that has been going on since the 1990s, right? And then you have a Deus Ex right here, around 12 million units. But taking away from some of these sales right here, the 88 million and the 12 million units, some of those sales are, the bulk of those sales come from the newer games, right? So in this article right here, courtesy of Silicon Era, yes, it brings up the fact that, you know, it reached 88 million units, but 38, almost half of those sales were from Tomb Raider 2013, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So 3 games collectively, throughout the course of their lifespan, it hasn't even been 10 years since they rebooted it, have sold 40 million units. And it makes me wonder, what exactly were Square Enix's expectations for 3 games in a reboot? 3 games in a reboot. One of them, you did some timed exclusive BS. And then the other one, the last one, wasn't the best well received. For all of those games to sell close to 40 million units, how much did you pump into them, right? And same thing for Deus Ex. If I can find the article right here, courtesy of GameRanks, sales of Deus Ex Human Revolution and Mankind Divided, which are the most recent games, the last 2 Deus Ex games we've gotten, those games have hit 12 million units. Now, obviously, again, similar to Tomb Raider, these are lifetime sales. So a lot of those games were not purchased at the full $60 price. Some of them were probably purchased for $5 on Steam sales. But all things considered, that is very good. Those are great sales numbers. And it makes me wonder, what were Square Enix's expectations? But continuing, going down the list, it talks more about the history of these studios, 300 employees at Crystal Dynamics across multiple studios, you guys, in San Mateo, California, Bellevue, Washington, Austin, Texas. 3 studios right there, right? Eidos Montreal, who's just coming off of the release of Guardians of the Galaxy, the phenomenally underrated. Well, it's not really underrated. It's a game that's gotten a lot of appreciation, but maybe not from a mainstream perspective. Very, very good game. You guys know it was my game of the year for last year. But Eidos Montreal, 500 employees across their studios in Montreal, Canada, Sherbrooke, Canada, and Shanghai, China. I didn't even know they had a studio in China. No, listen, the more you know. And then Square-Enix Montreal, who has 2 other studios right there, and all of this stuff together combines into, I don't even want to say Embracer Group has an Infinity Gauntlet at this point. They've got room on all their entire body to put Infinity Stones, because they're just acquiring all of these companies, man, and it's absolutely insane. But just talking about this sale and what it means for the future of a lot of these games, because I know a lot of people are talking about how with the sale of these franchises and these developers to Embracer Group, does that mean doom and gloom for these series? Does it mean that these games are not going to continue in the way that we know them? Are they going to change up the formula? Are they going to do something new, crazy, blah, blah, blah? The answer to those questions is we do not know. The only thing that we can see from the Embracer Group is that they basically want all of the studios and all these companies and what they acquire to run autonomously. And by autonomously, I mean literally, you do what you do, you craft your own little niche, and then we reap the benefits of that. That is basically what I've seen from all the things that Embracer Group has acquired, and they've purchased a lot of things. So best case scenario, what we are going to see in this situation, even though we don't know the full specifics, is I think for the first time in a decade, all of these studios will be able to make the games they want to make without pressure from their corporate overlords, their corporate publishers, Square-Enix. And I know that's very sensationalist of me. I know it's basically like, oh, you're making it seem as if like the publishers forced the developers to do what they did, blah, blah, blah. And under normal circumstances, I'd be like, okay, you know, take it on a case-by-case basis. But with Square-Enix and what we've seen over the past 10 years, right? Over the past 10 years, failure to meet expectations. That puts an insane amount of pressure on your developers if you're going to come out here and say repeatedly that all of these games have failed to meet our expectations, right? But it's even more insidious when you talk about how a lot of the things that made these games fail to hit those expectations outside of budgetary reasons, you know, from Square Enix, you know, apparently they don't know how to budget games. That falls under mismanagement. But from a creative side, Deus Ex fans, this is gonna hurt a little. I know. I gotta open up the can of worms. I have to like open up the wound again. But the last Deus Ex game, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, all things considered, really enjoyable, entertaining game. I had a lot of fun with it. But what we cannot deny is that game was marred with so much controversy and BS. In an otherwise great game, there was so much going around with Square Enix, and you know, like they're all about trying to find different ways to make money off the product. And it's okay if you want to, you know, sell DLC, if you want to do these like post-release type of stuff, so long as it doesn't, you know, interfere with how the game is developed, I'm all cool with that. But when you saw what they were doing with Deus Ex Mankind Divided and just the general morale and the fatigue that you saw at Eidos Montreal because of that, that is the reason why the game did not end up as great as it should have been. Because of Square Enix's interference and their micromanaging of the studio. Like, this is all stuff that has been documented. Like, all this stuff is out there if you guys want to check it out. I'm just, you know, giving y'all the Cliff Notes version of it. So basically, they fucked it up, right? They fucked it up. And then after that, instead of being like, okay, what can we do to better this situation? Maybe actually go ahead and make a better Deus Ex game where there's not any of these issues. We're just going to force y'all onto this Marvel project, whether you like it or not, right? Now, mind you, we got a great game out of that with Guardians of the Galaxy, but what happened after that? Square Enix's failure to market the game. You have the Guardians of the Galaxy, which is, in my honest opinion, even though it's not a new IP, you know what I'm saying? Like a new IP to the masses because they've been around for decades. It's basically new to people. And you couldn't capitalize off of the MCU success with a Guardians game. Like, that is just a failure in marketing, man. Every single time they showcase this, like, go back to my streams. Every single time they showcase this game, it looked rough as hell. It looked boring. It looked generic. And then the game comes out and it's freaking great. Like, sure, it's got some rough spots in the combat, but all things considered, the narrative is fantastic, the writing is great, the graphics are awesome, and it's just like, what is the game that they marketed us, right? And then the same thing happened to it in much more insane degree with the Avengers project. The Avengers project, which I know people they're like tired of me beating the dead horse on that game, but I will beat a dead horse. If you thought Guardians of the Galaxy and failing to capitalize that was a problem, the Avengers game should have been easy money. This should have been like easy 20 million units in the first day type of game. This should have been something on the level of Grand Theft Auto 5 with how much reach and pull. You're coming off of Avengers Endgame, one of the highest grossing movies. It's number 2. Like, almost $3 billion. And then you come out with this game that is sort of single player, but at the same time it's not, because it's geared towards live service and it's very repetitive, and the content drops that you get for a live service game are really terrible, so it forces you to grind with all these heroes, and then you have a terrible rollout of all of these heroes. What? How? Coming off of the success of the Avengers, coming off of the success of Spider-Man PS4, you do this to us. But again, that's all on Crystal Dynamics. Failure to meet expectations, even though if you look at the deep dive history of everything that went on with that game, there was a lot of hands, there were a lot of cooks in the kitchen that shouldn't have been in the kitchen. There were times where they said, hey, listen, we need to push this game back, but they didn't let them push it back. Appreciate Munch with the $1.99 super chat. I appreciate that, my friend. I'll get to that in a little bit. But so you have all of this stuff, all of this pressure on the studios. And now they're away from that. So could this potentially mean that we get better games from these studios? I mean, absolutely. It's not as if we can get worse games. And if we do get worse games, I mean, it is what it is. We all take the micro L on that one. But as it stands right now, if Embracer Group is going to provide funding to these studios and let them work at peace, like let Crystal Dynamics do their Tomb Raider on Unreal Engine 5 and have fun with it, cool. If they let Eidos Montreal work on a new Deus Ex game or something else, cool. If they let them work on some of their legacy franchises like Legacy of Kain, we gonna keep bringing that up, even though, you know, it hasn't been relevant in a long ass time. Games like Soul Reaver, that entire franchise is ripe for a modern incarnation. Whether it's a reboot, whether it's a remake, whether it's just like remasters until we work on this new game, whatever it may be that Square-Enix didn't deem necessary or relevant, I hope Embracer Group goes ahead and gives us those games. Like that's my hope. That's my wish. That's my prayer that they do that. Because there's a lot of talent at these studios. It's just that they've been mismanaged over the past couple of years. Now, there are a couple of other things in this situation that I kind of... So this is the part where it's not necessarily why... So I can't 100% blame Square for their decision-making and why they wanted to sell these studios. Because when you look at these studios and you look at how much money that they've poured into them and why they kept saying failure to meet expectations, a lot of these studios, if you look at how much money they spent to how much they actually earned, it was very, very, very high risk, low reward. There were some situations where if you take away all of the money that they spent on the game and then you look at the profit of the game, it would only eke out cents on the dollar by comparison to some of these other studios where you spend X amount of money and you sometimes double, triple, quadruple that. So looking at it in terms of a financial perspective, all of those games didn't make enough money for Square Enix to justify their existence in their studio catalog, right? Again, that is Square Enix's fault as a publisher, because you should be able to manage all of those things. You can't just come out here and say stuff like, yeah, you know, we just had to sell them because they weren't making money. Well, I wonder why they weren't making money. What were you doing? You're the person owning it. It's like the weirdest, it's the strangest thing. But yeah, from a business perspective, they sold those companies for peanuts because the companies weren't making them money. Now, I'm a firm believer that if you actually manage those studios and you actually set realistic goals and expectations for a lot of these games, these studios could become very, very, very profitable. But they decide to sell them to Embracer Group for $300 million for something that, you know, it's just like Square Enix is the gift that keeps on giving at this point. You would think that, all right, we're selling them for $300 million. We're going to clear away this, like, huge risk to reward chunk of our balance sheet. We're going to take that $3 million. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to go ahead and start investing it in some other things. You know, that's what all good companies do, guys. That's what all good companies do. They invest in stuff that makes them money, proven commodities, like Square Enix. What a lot of people don't realize, and some of them, I mean, myself included, I used to complain about this back in the day. Square Enix makes a lot of money off of video games, but not necessarily their console titles, not necessarily Final Fantasy 14. While they make a lot of money off of 14, a lot of Square Enix's cash flow, what it comes from is mobile gaming, smartphone gaming. So all of those things that you see, you know, advertisements for, or all the games that you wonder, why aren't these on consoles, but they come to mobile first? Like, why would Square Enix focus so much on them? Well, because Square Enix makes the majority of their revenue off of that, right? So this is coming from tweaktown.com, and Derek Strickland actually did this tweet back in February, so this is a few months ago. But yeah, if you look at Square Enix right here, their net sales, their operating income, their operating margin, and all the money that they make off of video games. So Square Enix total 9-month game segment revenues, $1.836 billion. Just look at the split right here. Look at the split right here from
$848.888 million. That is 46% off of browser and smartphone games. And then HD games, which I would assume is like their console division, handheld division, things like that. That's coming in at a little over $568 million. So 31%. So that is not a number to scoff at. And then the fucking Final Fantasy 14 category right here. I know they still got that. I think they still got that Dragon Quest game going on. But yeah, the Final Fantasy 14 category, $418 million. So for this company to want to invest more of that money into the things that make them money, by all means, I mean, I can't hate it. I can't freaking hate it because that's where all the money is. All these re-releases, all these gacha games, all this other stuff that I don't personally play, that's where their bread and butter is. And it is what it is. But there is something that is a little more insidious that Square-Enix has been talking about for a while, and it's something that we've criticized them for at every single junction, at every single point. The reason why Square-Enix went ahead and sold these studios was so they can invest all of that money, that $300 million, into blockchain/NFTs. Yep, that's right, you guys. So this is coming from Square-Enix and the executive of share transfer agreement with change to subsidiaries. The purpose of this transaction. The transaction will assist the company in adapting to the changes underway in the global business environment by establishing a more efficient allocation of resources, which will enhance corporate value by accelerating growth in the company's core businesses in the digital entertainment domain. Self-explanatory. In addition, the transaction enables the launch of new businesses by moving forward with investments in fields including blockchain, AI, and the cloud. Blockchain technology, ladies and gentlemen. And this echoes what we heard. I believe it was like the first news story that broke for 2022 because of the way the time difference is, from Japan to over here in the West. I believe we heard about this like on New Year's Eve while everyone was getting ready to party. We just heard this announcement that, this year we really want to go ahead and explore NFTs and blockchains. And we think that, with clever planning or whatever, it can be really beneficial to our users. The same usual bullshit we hear from all of these people in the industry. And it was funny, Reggie Fils-Aimé actually came out and said that he was a supporter of blockchain technology, but he said it has to be in a way that's beneficial to the consumer. And I mean, I'm just gonna be honest, I don't think there is a way for it to ever be beneficial to the consumer without it fucking somebody over. But yeah, if you guys want to check this out, this is just more business information talking about how much money that these companies made throughout the past 3 years and how they really weren't making that much money. But yeah, everything is cool now because we don't got to worry about that, which from a financial point of view, that's great for Square-Enix. They have less studios that could potentially lose them money. And you would think that, okay, now this means they could focus on, some other stuff that really matters. And it's like, no, blockchain and NFTs. Sorry about that. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's the situation. I'm not sure if I'm missing anything else in terms of if they came out and they talked more about some of the situations. Like I've seen some people in the comments wondering what's going to happen to the Avengers game, what's going to happen to Guardians of the Galaxy. Are they going to go ahead and does it mean that Eidos Montreal cannot work on the sequel for that? I don't know if they said anything else recently about those games, but I would assume because Marvel is the IP holder, they own the rights to those games. All they would really have to do is contract Eidos Montreal to work on Guardians of the Galaxy if they wanted to. I'm not sure if they would have to get involved with Square-Enix, but then again, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe that is something that we're going to hear in the next couple of months, or maybe it's something we're never going to hear. Maybe we won't get a sequel to Guardians of the Galaxy, which would be very disappointing. But again, all of this stuff is still very fresh. It's only been a little over 24 hours of what's happening here. But yeah, just to recap it for those who are just joining in, who kind of missed like the breakdown of everything and what we discussed. Overall, I think that this deal is good for both parties. I think that this deal is great for Square-Enix, and it is also a phenomenal deal for the Embracer Group. Obviously talking about it from Embracer Group's point of view, they just made out like bandits. They got so many developers, they got so many studios, they got so many IPs at their disposal. All of that stuff for peanuts on the dollar. That is phenomenal. And in the case of Square Enix, it's good from a business point of view because they no longer have these risky studios in their portfolio that, you know, their games cost a lot of money to make and they don't make the money to support all of these, you know, these releases that they put out. So, yeah, from their point of view, it's good. They got some money out of it. But it is disappointing because knowing where that money is going to go and what the future is looking like for Square Enix, like I'm not going to sit here and spell doom and gloom for the company because I think that's very foolish because, you know, a lot of these things can blow up in these companies' faces at some point, right? It does not mean I am any less excited for the next Dragon Quest game, the next Kingdom Hearts, the next Final Fantasy. I'm still very excited for those games. But if we start seeing some shenanigans in those titles, if we start seeing a lot of wild stuff in these games, that is when I think we need to revisit this discussion, because I don't think any CEO is immune from criticism in this case. And when we start seeing a lot of that stuff play into the games that we actually love, that's when I think that we as gamers need to say, no, fuck this shit. We ain't buying your game. We're not supporting it. But again, that doesn't mean that is ever going to happen. Maybe these companies are smart and they realize, okay, we'll do this NFT blockchain stuff in the smaller mobile games. You know, that doesn't make it any less predatory. But if it's like the main bread and butter, like the people who don't play these things, you know, the people that buy consoles to play Final Fantasy VII Remake and some other stuff, then I guess that's the best case scenario if it doesn't permeate those games. But you never know, man. All it takes is just the change in leadership to, you know, either make a company great or send them down a very, very, very dark path. But talking about Square Enix for a second, and, you know, this is not necessarily related to this situation, but it is something that did happen quite recently with Balan Wonderworld. Now, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and try to defend that game whatsoever. I know there's some people out there saying that it's an underrated gem and it's just such a misunderstood title, blah, blah, blah. But I believe it was Yuji Naka had come out and basically he put Square Enix on blast on Twitter. Like, this man had time. This man had time to go ahead and just blast Square Enix, basically saying that they don't care about the gamers. They don't care about making great video games. You know, they rushed this production. They forced me out, all this nonsense. Now, I'm not saying that if he had had the extra 6 months, this game would have been this phenomenal genre-defining platformer. But it is kind of evident when you look at Square Enix and they just do these things, it doesn't seem like they're really doing stuff out of a labor of love unless they have people who are powerful enough to basically put the balls on the table. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to have people like a Yoshi P. You need to have a Yoko Taro. You need to have a Tetsuya Nomura who's basically like, listen, I'm gonna put my balls on the table right now, and if you fuck with me, I'm out of here. Like, you need to have those type of people to be like, I'm gonna get this done. But if you have somebody who's maybe not on that level, or maybe they're just trying to find their footing and work around, or maybe an established veteran who hasn't really been doing much of all, you're gonna get pushed around. And again, I'm not saying this in defense of Balan Wonderworld, like, oh, it was this great game that people didn't know about. But when we start seeing stuff like that, and it's not just Balan Wonderworld, it was like that Left Alive title, there was Babylon's Fall as well. There was a lot of stuff that went down under Square Enix's umbrella, and you're just like, why? Why did this need to happen? Why? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, I mean, it's going to be a while for us to see anything from this acquisition on both sides, you know, like however long it's going to take Square Enix to go ahead and do this NFT nonsense. And Embracer Group talking about like the games. I mean, we should start hearing announcements for some of these titles. If they greenlight it now, we should be hearing something, you know, to attract talent to the studios, maybe within the next year and a half. We already know the new Tomb Raider game is in development on Unreal Engine 5. So that's a few years off, but at the same time, it's very exciting because we're going to get a new Tomb Raider game. And yeah, I'm just excited to see what happens in the future, man. I'm excited to see if maybe at some point some of these studios can get another crack at these Marvel games, because and I saw some people bringing it up. Marvel is the company that distributes the licenses for these games. That does not mean that the companies own the rights per se. Like Square-Enix is like, oh, no, we own the Avengers license, or we own Guardians of the Galaxy. Maybe they might own the title to that specific game, but I would think that Marvel, in the era that they are right now, where they realize it makes a lot more money to have all their licenses under one umbrella, and they just pick the studios and publishers to work with on the one-time thing, that's more beneficial versus like, hey, we're gonna sell the rights for a couple of years, like Activision had the Marvel rights for a couple of years back in the day, and then EA had the rights to Star Wars up until quite recently, and now we have like Ubisoft working on a Star Wars game, and we have Amy Hennig working on a Star Wars game. So it makes more sense to do it like, hey, we're going to establish our own entity, and then we'll just work with people on a case-by-case basis. But what do you guys think about this? What do you guys think about this situation? Do you think it's a good move? Obviously, I think most people are in agreement that it's a good move. What do you guys want to see out of this more than anything? Like me, myself, and I just want to see these developers work on great games without having to worry about Square Enix's usual shenanigans. I mean, like, dude, for example, like, oh my God, does anybody remember in the first Tomb Raider game, the reboot, where they added in a multiplayer mode? For what? For what? Like, what the fuck are you gonna do multiplayer in Tomb Raider for, bro? Like, dude, I know that was a sign of the times back like in 2010 to 2013 was, man, it was rough in these gaming streets because everything had to have multiplayer just fucking because, bro. Just because. And then that Tomb Raider game was just like, yo, let's have a multiplayer, bro. But yeah, there's a lot of things I would love to see. I mean, a nice return. You know what I would like as a Tomb Raider fan? One thing I would like is to see this version of Lara Croft grow a little more. Because the Lara Croft we have is cool and everything, but she's very different. It's a stark contrast from the original Lara Croft that we got in those other games, where she was more of a, I wouldn't say she was, maybe hardcore Tomb Raider fans can correct me, but I wouldn't say she was more of like an anti-hero, but she was just kind of like someone who, she just did her own thing, man. Whatever was beneficial to her. Like, she didn't really have anything else that we would deem as, oh yeah, like I relate and I am very emotionally attached to it. It was a character that you played as and you're just like, yo, I don't relate to anything about this character, but I love playing as this character. So I think maybe if they go down that route, that'll be really interesting. But yeah, this one right here is a shot in the dark, but I would love to see them do something with Sleeping Dogs. Like Sleeping Dogs, I know it comes up on the timeline every damn day because somebody has just purchased Sleeping Dogs on Xbox and they're just playing it on backwards compatibility. It's awesome, but I see that game on my feed every day. It is worth revisiting. I mean, it was a nice, solid open world game, and they could have done a lot more with it. They could have done a lot more with the characters. It would have been a really interesting story. And I mean, how often do you get martial arts open world titles? You rarely get those kind of games. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, fuck it, man. Like, if we get another Sleeping Dogs game, that'll just, like, it will remind me of the DNA of true crime. Even though it's not true crime, it's a different game now, but it will bring me back. It will bring me back. But yeah, Sleeping Dogs would be fantastic. But yeah, now I'm just going to open it up to the comments section, you guys, and we'll go for a little while longer. You know, just answer some of the questions that you guys wanted me to ask. Like, anything you guys wanted to know about the situation, just ask me some questions. And I'm just going to go ahead and check out. Ooh, hold on. Let me see where it went. I got to find. Oh, okay, here. So I'm going to go ahead and answer some of the super chats real quick. So we got a $4.99 super chat coming in from Megas456. Appreciate that, my brother. Hopefully that means we get a Gex 4. LOL. But seriously, I hope they take advantage of the huge back catalog of games they just got. Absolutely, bro. I mean, that's the dream. That's the dream. Similar to Microsoft acquiring Activision, if they could go out there and just let these developers work on the games that they want, or give them access to some of the other more dormant IPs without worrying about, hey, let's make it this thing because it's the new hot title, that'd be awesome. Let's see. Gian the Don, who's been a member of the Phantom Weirdos for the past 4 months. Appreciate you, my brother. The Tomb Raider franchise has sold 88 million as a whole, with the reboot trilogy selling 38 of that 88. Is this bad since they're multiplats? Well, that's the thing, bro. I think everything, when you look at sales of something, right? You obviously, like, sales don't necessarily paint the whole picture for something, especially depending on how much money was spent on it, and depending on how many of those sales, like what price were they purchased at. So when you look at something like, let's say, for example, Okay, let's bring up the Days Gone situation, right? You remember how with Days Gone, how I believe it was John Garvin, he came out, he said, if you love a game, buy it at full effing price. That was partially him saying that if you really truly love a game and you want it to succeed, you have to support it when it is at its most expensive. As strange as that sounds, I know he could have worded that a lot better, and I don't agree with that sentiment, because how do you know you love a game until you get the game and play it? You get what I'm saying? Like, you can't just blind buy something just because. But when you look at a lot of the sales for certain games and you look at their lifetime sales versus what they made in their most critical points, some games end up selling millions upon millions of units because they were sold $4 or $5. Now, in the grand scheme of things, that is still a lot of money. But to some of these publishers like Square-Enix, they're like, no, I don't care that you sold 5 million units at $5, right? I'd rather you sell 4 million units in the first 6 months at anywhere from $40 to $60. You get what I'm saying? And I don't think it necessarily has to do with the fact that they're multiplats, because multiplats mean it's a more available audience. But, you know, for someone like Square-Enix, they're just all about starting off strong and then having legs. They don't want you to start out strong and then fizzle. They don't want you to start out weak and then gain some momentum. They want you to start out from the gate strong, which, listen, I'm not a shareholder at these companies. I'm not in the boardroom. I don't manage these things. I don't know what's right. I don't know what's wrong. But what I can say is, based off what we've been seeing for the past 10 years, Square Enix's idea of success for the Western studios has not been working out, and it's not a very healthy expectation. Again, that falls under bad management. $1.99 coming in from Munch. All you got to say is Legacy of Kain. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just like Legacy of Kain alongside, you know, games like Siphon Filter. There's so many games from like the 1990s, early to mid 2000s that I'm not going to say they got lost in the shuffle, but, you know, with so many other entities that were blowing up at the time, they were like tier 2, tier 3 titles that, you know, we love them because we remember them, we played them. But, you know, to a lot of these executives, they look at that and they're like, ugh, that's old. You know, Jim Ryan, like, why would anybody want to play this? But that's what makes those games great when you look at a franchise like Legacy of Kain and what you could do. Like people always say that, oh, you know, gaming is getting very stale, very boring because it's all about the same franchises. And yeah, to an extent that is true. But then when you have this back catalog of really great games and you don't do anything with it, it's like, well, you better be making a new IP or a new game that actually, you know, contributes to something. But yeah, fingers crossed we'll get, or at the very least, like farm out Blue Point to do something like that. Like, man, I don't care if you got to, whatever you got to do, just get a developer to work on a new one. Okay. And then let's see who else we got. We got $4.99 coming in for the homie Corey Gryffindor. I appreciate you, my brother. Well, this means people won't be asking about Deus Ex and Tomb Raider character worlds in Kingdom Hearts 4 now. Oh, wow. You know what the funny thing is? Out of all the things, I haven't really seen folks talk about having those characters in Kingdom Hearts. Like, the characters I always heard discussed, obviously, were more Final Fantasy characters. You know, The World Ends With You showing up. And then ironically, you know, Marvel and Star Wars after the after Disney bought them in 2009 and 2012. But yeah, like Deus Ex and Tomb Raider characters, I never really saw much of them. But then again, I might just be out of the loop of the Kingdom Hearts community and, you know, what they really wanted. I think it would be hilarious to see Sora team up with Adam Jensen. I could see Sora teaming up with Laura, but Adam Jensen, that just like, he's just so stoic at times. But then again, I mean, Sora teamed up with Auron, so there's that. $2 super chat coming in from Flame. If they ruin Dragon Quest, I'm jumping off a bridge. I mean, man, listen. Dragon Quest is their oldest, most celebrated franchise. Dragon Quest is the franchise where you could disappear from the spotlight for years, and I mean years. Like, look, for example, the last mainline Dragon Quest game that wasn't an MMO was Dragon Quest IX on the Nintendo DS. And if I remember correctly, that came out in the late 2000s. I want to say 2009, 2010, probably 2010. And then from there, the newest Dragon Quest game was on a console, like almost 10 years later, and it blew the fuck up. So Dragon Quest is that franchise where it's like, yo, don't fuck with these fans. Like, don't fuck with these fans, straight up. So we'll see, man. We'll see. All right, let's see some of these other questions. All right, I'm just gonna scroll down and check out some of these things. Why didn't Sony jump on this opportunity? Well, I mean, the thing about all these companies is they, you know, we always hear this, like, why didn't Microsoft buy them? Why didn't this company do that? Blah, 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 blah. All these companies have things in the works that we aren't privy to, and they've probably signed deals and stuff that they feel would be more beneficial to them. Because remember, all these companies, they do stuff that will benefit them. And in the case of these titles, I'm not necessarily saying that it wouldn't benefit a PlayStation to have them exclusive. It wouldn't benefit Xbox. But what they can get from them, games that were already multi-plat that, you know, like, people really enjoy them, but they're not like, oh my God, I got to run out and buy a console to play them. They could spend that money on other stuff. Like, for example, what would Microsoft really gain from this? I mean, yes, there is the opportunity for Game Pass inclusion. There is the opportunity for developer freedom, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like that would just be them buying more studios just to buy more studios. Unless there was something about these games or these developers that they had in the works that's like, oh, we really want to get a jump start on that and support that. Microsoft can just cut deals for Game Pass. They could just come out there and say, hey, listen, you know, the next Tomb Raider game, we'll put a day and date on Game Pass. And that will be exponentially cheaper, and there'd be less risk to that versus buying all of these other studios and publishers. But I'm not surprised if Sony and Microsoft have already cut deals with other publishers to buy stuff. I mean, that is what it is. Like, you know, we talked about the Bethesda deal, we talked about the Activision deal, we talked about the Bungie deal, and all the other deals that have been going on. So yeah, not every publisher needs to buy every developer just because they are a good price. And we don't know the price of these things until it's negotiated. Like, this was something that was negotiated with Square-Enix and Embracer Group. That doesn't necessarily mean that PlayStation and Square-Enix would have had the same deal. They would have come to the same deal. It wouldn't mean the same thing for Microsoft either. You know, maybe they could have got a little more, maybe they could have got a little less. So, yeah. Let's see. NFTs are already a dying market, even though Square Enix is in. Yeah, bro, Matt, that's the thing. That's the unfortunate reality of a lot of these companies chasing the trends. And you saw it so much with all the celebrities who were making money off of, like, you know, they all, you know, here's the thing that I always find interesting. If you ever see, and you guys got to stay a little woke to this shit. But if you ever see a whole bunch of people jumping on board with something almost immediately, like, I heard more about celebrities promoting NFTs and all this stuff before I even knew what an NFT was. Like, beforehand, you start hearing about something, you start learning about it from a few, like, people in passing. But it seemed like NFTs went hand in hand with all these celebrities because they want to be at the forefront of this. They want to be, like, everyone is kicking themselves because they missed out on the Bitcoin craze and cryptocurrency when it was in its infancy. So they look at NFTs and like, oh, that's going to be the next big thing. So what happens is you have all these people from Gwyneth Paltrow to Square Enix thinking like, yeah, I'm going to jump on board with it. Troy Baker is in the mix as well. You know, thinking like, yeah, this is what it's all about, man. And it's not, man. If you look at the evaluation of these NFTs, if you look at the interest in these NFTs, I mean, you never know what'll happen down the road. I'm not saying things won't get better. Maybe they will. But to just think about it for a second, it's like, dude, you know where your bread and butter is. As like, the thing I don't understand about the video game industry is like, we are very easy people to please. You put out really good games, we support them. And when you look at some of the other industries out there and how they make money, video games have like one of the like highest entry prices. You know, if you take, let's say, for example, since we talked about Avengers Endgame, you take Avengers Endgame, that movie costs, you know, north of $300 million to produce, right? But a ticket cost is anywhere from like $9 to $16 for a regular Joe Schmo screening. Whereas you take a video game where a lot of them don't have $300 million budgets. Most of them are a lot more, they can be expensive, but most of them are very, they can be conservative too. Some of those games could be like $20, $30, $40, $50, $60, $70. That's crazy. And when you factor in digital and how they get more of the revenue from that, that's insane. So to have access to all that money, in addition to, post-release monetization, in addition to pre-release monetization, in addition to all this other stuff, it's just like, where is all this money going that you need even more? Because if a lot of your games are selling millions upon millions of units and it's very successful, like why do you need to do all this other extra shit? Oh, to make more money, which isn't a problem. I mean, capitalism, baby. That's fine. But it's like you're doing it at the expense of the creativity and putting pressure on the studios, and then taking legacy franchises and trying to tie them in with this nonsense. That's where I draw the line. But the best part about this industry is that as quickly as they introduce that BS, if the gamers are smart, they rise up, they don't support it, and then that shit flops. Oh, I just noticed we got 91 viewers watching. If you guys are enjoying the stream, make sure you hit that like button. We're currently at 47 likes. All right, so let's go ahead and answer some other questions. How much will this affect the value of WB Games if they want to be acquired? So that's another thing that I wanted to make this a dual topic video, but there really wasn't much concrete stuff to report about. But basically, Discovery, who's now the owners of Warner Brothers, Discovery, there are rumors circulating because Discovery, it's a whole new leadership, whole new management versus AT&T. Discovery, they've been canceling a lot of the CW shows. And now they're looking at other ways that they can make their division more profitable. Same thing with Square-Enix selling to Embracer Group. They're finding ways to make things that are like basically dead weight or very risky. Can we sell that off? And WB Games is one of those entities. Now, WB Games does put out some pretty successful titles, but the rate at which a lot of these outside entities want, they don't really have any of those titles. So there are rumors that WB Games might be dissolved and they might just go back to being individual developers and sold off that way. They might sell off all of the studios to just, lump sum to one publisher. There were talks about like Microsoft maybe buying them. PlayStation might be buying them. EA, Ubisoft. A lot of, the usual names are thrown into the hat. But yeah, I gotta wonder what the value of WB Games is, because honestly, I feel as if Square-Enix undersold their properties. They undersold their properties based off of what they were making off of them. So that's all they could sell them for, right? To us, it means a lot more than 300 million, but based off of the market, nah. WB Games, I think whoever they negotiate with, well, not they, but Discovery, whoever they negotiate with, they're going to have to look at the value of these IPs. Mortal Kombat, the value of the Batman IP in game form, the value of all these other properties. Of course, there's the Hogwarts Legacy game coming out. But yeah, I honestly, at this point, man, I don't know. Because we all assume that Crystal Dynamics with Tomb Raider is like a couple $100 million in and of itself. That's what we all thought. Now, I don't know. Everything is up there. Okay, so do you think Sony is going to buy the Japanese side of Square? Yeah, that is something that, a lot of rumor conspiracists have been saying. Square-Enix sold off their Western studios so they can appeal more palpable to PlayStation buying them or another entity. And, people have been floating around the idea of Square being acquired by PlayStation for a while. I mean, honestly, in my opinion, Square is basically already flirting with PlayStation. PlayStation and Square have been dating for decades now, right? Like, Square is essentially synonymous with PlayStation for all of their biggest IPs. And when they're not doing that, they got Nintendo on the side for some of those one-off games, right? And sometimes the side chick be satisfying you more than the main chick. And that's why they're like, okay, we're going to give you something like a Octopath Traveler. You know what I'm saying? Something interesting, but we ain't going to put that on PlayStation, we going to give you some of these titles. But then again, like they do all side chicks. They do them dirty at times because it's like, we could give you Kingdom Hearts. We're going to give you Kingdom Hearts Cloud Edition. So basically what I'm trying to say is the relationship between Square-Enix and Nintendo is kind of like when you take the side chick out in public and she wants to post photos with the man and then the man just goes like this, right? That's that relationship. That's the relationship that they have. They fuck with Nintendo, but they ain't gonna put a ring on Nintendo. Now with PlayStation, on the other hand, I could potentially see that, but I don't know if that'd be that beneficial to PlayStation. Like, what would they honestly get from buying Square Enix when they already get all of Square Enix's games, period? Maybe the one-off title they don't get. Like the only thing I would think of would be like, it would make the fans happy, like not the fanboys, but the fans happy that maybe, okay, now that they're owned by PlayStation, they don't have to do all these dumbass decisions. Maybe they can go ahead and give us like some of these legacy titles that we've wanted and blah, 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 you know, ooh, ah, ee, all that stuff. But yeah, like, I don't know. Like, if they were to buy them, I'm like, okay, cool. That doesn't really change anything to me. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, all right. You know, it's like when PlayStation bought Insomniac. All right. Yeah, which is still the greatest deal. It's still the greatest deal in history. But yeah. It's like, all right, if PlayStation buys them, all right, they just put a ring on the finger. They've been dating for 20 plus years. You put the ring on the finger, you lock it down, and you know, you have funding. Square cheated a few times, but yeah, Square is basically a PlayStation studio at this point. Yeah, man. Okay, let's see. Some of the yeah, keep asking some questions, guys. We'll go for another 20 minutes. I just want these companies to be able to make games without Square-Enix, you know, Square-Enixing everything. You and me both, my friend. You and me both. It's like every single time I watch a Square-Enix stream, there's always some type of disappointment. Do you guys remember when they announced the Final Fantasy 1 through 6 Pixel Collection? And how everyone in the chat, we were like all so excited. My mustache is itching me, I'm sorry. We were all so excited, and then it said coming to PC and mobile, and we were just like, oh. Like, oh, man. Alrighty. Let's see. Yeah, Square Enix did the follow-up to Sleeping Dogs. They thought it should be an online PC-only game that never made it out of alpha. Square Enix just be making some dumb-ass decisions, man. I'm saying, bro. For whatever reason, Square chose to keep Life is Strange. I guess one reason is those games are probably cheap to make, so large profit margin. Yeah, Matt, honestly, I think that's what it is. Because when you look at the budget of a Life is Strange game, I mean, we could have put that shit together. We could have kickstarted that. Like everybody, if everybody in this chat right now, we got 80 people. If everybody in this chat, if we all got together and we donated $100, we could have probably developed a Life is Strange game. You know, maybe, you know, I'm being presumptuous. Maybe $115. We could have probably done a Life is Strange game. But yeah, very, very low risk, but high reward because those games, the Life is Strange games are actually really popular with, it's not a slight, but it's popular with a lot of non-gamers. So people who don't game consecutively like we do, but a lot of people who play like maybe a Breath of the Wild or you know, Animal Crossing. I've seen them play Life is Strange, and it also appeals to a lot of the things that most games don't really touch on. So it talks about, you know, just talks about your identity. It's very emotional because, you know, they're narrative-based games. So the reach is much wider. It can attract a lot more people, and you can make them for cheap. So there's that. But yeah, I mean, I love the Life is Strange games. Well, I love the first one, and I love True Colors. Those are the only two that I played, but I really, really enjoyed True Colors. True Colors was great. Let's see. If you can make a sequel to any game, what would it be? Well, considering this is the Square Enix show today, just give me another Legacy of Kain title. That's it. Let's see. This man said Rico Rodriguez in Kingdom Hearts. Oh my god, that would be terrifying. No, actually, that'd be hilarious. What am I saying? Let's see. Oh, Chris Righteous, what's going on, my brother? What's up? I mean, listen, guys, I don't think PlayStation, because a lot of people are saying like, oh, PlayStation missed out on this deal. I don't really think PlayStation really missed out on anything. Like, listen, PlayStation is still top dog. Like, what do they really get a game from this? I mean, like, I don't know, man. PlayStation, they put out games. They put out games. That's it. Now, it'll be a different story in 2 years or so when all these Microsoft studios finally release something. But I feel as if PlayStation has built that lineage and they're still putting out great games. The problem is all the other shit that they're doing. That's the problem. Like the whole PlayStation Plus situation that's happening. Oh my God. Let's see. I'm too used to the days when NFT stood for not for trade in tape trading communities. Yo, that's a deep cut right there, Maddie. That's a deep cut. Do you think Kingdom Hearts 1 aged poorly? If so, would you rather have a remake or remaster? I mean, the thing is, with a lot of these games, I mean, Kingdom Hearts is 20 years old. Most of the games that we played, unless they were the pinnacle of the genre and groundbreaking in a good way, basically Nintendo titles, there is going to be some age to them because that's how we played games back then. And even nowadays, if you go back and you play a game from like 10 years ago, some of them don't really hold up that well, especially on the PS3 and 360. So I just look at it like it's a product of its time. You know what I'm saying? And the HD remixes, they did go back and fix a lot of things. So the version that we're playing now is fundamentally different from the version we played in 2002. But yeah, I wouldn't want them to really do anything to it. I'd rather them just do more stuff, new stuff, and then just leave Kingdom Hearts 1 and realize, hey, this, if y'all want to play it, there you go. You know what I'm saying? But I know a lot of people, you're not the only person, Z, who has said like, oh, they should remake Kingdom Hearts 1. I'm like, why? Like, why? I mean, depending on what the remake is, I'm not going to sit here and act like I won't be interested if they fundamentally change up the entire game and it's different. But I don't know, man. Some things we just gotta leave alone. Like that Last of Us remake that they're talking about. I'm sure it's gonna be visually stunning. I'm sure running on the Last of Us 2 engine or the new engine, whatever they have, it's gonna be great. But at the same time, it's like, give me Last of Us Part 3. Give me a new IP. Like, there's no game that I love enough to be remade 10 years later. You know what I'm saying? Unless when it came out, it was kind of hindered, like the first Demon Souls was. Let's see. Let's get some more questions here. Somebody said Microsoft's relationship is just sex and leave. Microsoft just heard trying to fall asleep after the session. Square's like, so you called your Uber Lyft? Yo. That's wild. I mean, to be fair, that is kind of what happened, though, man. That is kind of what happened. They paid for that timed exclusivity on Rise of the Tomb Raider, and that shit did not work out, bro. I mean, it worked out for Square, but that shit did not work out, man. They did not do what they wanted it to do. Let's see. What if the fans are actually overvaluing the Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal's IP themselves? We don't know the breakdown of the financials of the companies themselves and how revenue split works. Well, actually, Narukami, well, we did touch on this, but that is what fans are doing. That's literally what I said before, how a lot of people, like, we all assume that, oh, Crystal Dynamics and Tomb Raider is a couple $100 million on themselves. But if you look at the balance sheet, and the data is out there, they just released all the financials, they weren't really making that much money off of those games. But mind you, you kind of have to put an asterisk and say, well, why weren't they making the money on those games? Was it the management of Square-Enix? What did they do to make it so those games aren't profitable, yet they keep putting out more of them? They could get Square-Enix to get them to make Legend of Dragoon since Japan Studios is no more. Yeah, they could, but they don't really need to buy a whole other developer for that. They could just contract it to somebody, you know? Remember when they originally announced their Avengers game only to tell us we'd have to wait a long time to hear anything else about it? That was a classic Square move. Yo. Oh my God, I'll never forget that shit. They strolled up, I think it was like January. They strolled up January 2017 and they dropped this really vague teaser for the Avengers game. It didn't even have a title. It was just called like Untitled Avengers Project, and it looked like it was good. It literally looked like a scene out of Age of Ultron. You know the horror scene, that the dream that Wanda puts Tony under. You know, he sees like Cap's shield is half broken and everybody's dead. That's kind of what that scene was. You know, Bruce Banner's glasses is broken or whatever, and it was just like reassemble. Don't ask us when this game is coming out. They just came up there and they just said, shut up. Like, they said straight, don't ask us about anything. And it took 2.5 years for us to hear anything about that game. Yeah, let's do that. Let's start our own gaming platform with this chat. Yo, I mean, to be fair, Baron, to be fair, that's Embracer Group can honestly create a whole console with all the IPs that they have, and I'm not gonna lie, it could be moderately successful. I mean, not to the point where you'd have to spend all that money, you know, creating a console, R&D development, upkeep, and all that. But Jesus Christ, my fucking mustache, one of the hairs is tickling my nose. It's getting annoying. I gotta shave it. But yeah, so yeah, they could do a lot with that. It's crazy. Oh, Legacy of Kane can't speak. Legacy of Kane remasters. Let's go. Yeah. So what we play right now in the Kingdom Hearts 1.5, well, the HD remixes on the consoles, those are the Japanese versions. You know, the Final Mix versions that came with some tweaks and stuff. But even more than that, when they remastered the game back on PS3, they went and they updated some of the original Kingdom Hearts source code. Well, they actually lost the source code for the first Kingdom Hearts game. Weird, I know. But they went back and they changed some things so it feels more consistent with the older games in the series. Well, with the later games in the series, which is so funny though, because it's kind of like from 1 to 2 is still a drastic difference. Damn, y'all make me want to replay Kingdom Hearts 2 again. Ugh. I can't do that. I can't. I'm playing Kingdom Hearts 3 right now for this challenge. Square-Enix is a weird company. On one hand, they remake Chrono Cross and it's somehow worse than the PS1 version. On the other hand, they make Final Fantasy VII Remake. Capcom should just run Square at this point. No, you know what it is? Square Enix is really the duality of man. Square Enix is like that child where they'll do something really good and they'll do something really bad in the span of like 6 hours, and you don't know whether to praise them or scold them, so you're just kind of like, You know what I'm saying? Like your kid will come home with an 100 on his chest, top of his class, and then he'll just, you know, smoke fucking, I would say smoke weed, but like weed is illegal. So he would just like do LSD like right afterwards. And he's like 12. It's like, what? Like, what the fuck? Like, what do you do? I don't know. But yeah, honestly, you know what it is? Square Enix knows where the money is. They know they couldn't fuck up the Final Fantasy VII Remake. But to the same degree, they can fuck up a Chrono Cross remaster and they can fuck up all this other smaller shit because they don't put effort into it. Let's see. Does anyone think ray tracing is overrated? I mean, I don't really care much for ray tracing. I think it's a nice graphical feature, but I'm not losing my sleep over it. I know there's this ongoing debate on Twitter right now saying like, oh, you know, like, oh, ray tracing is overrated. No, ray tracing is great. I just think it's nice to have, but I'm not losing sleep if a game doesn't have ray tracing. You know what I'm saying? Especially if the rest of the game is really good. Like Halo, for example. Halo didn't have ray tracing when it said it was going to have ray tracing. There's a lot more problems in Halo Infinite than the lack of ray tracing. So it's like, I'm not losing sleep. It is nice to look at, though. Currently in my mid-20s, I have massively high expectations of being either early or mid-30s when Kingdom Hearts 4 and Final Fantasy 16 release. Nah, I think Final Fantasy 16 is coming out. I think it's coming out either the end of this year, December, or early 2023. I think that one is actually on track. Kingdom Hearts 4, I'm not going to say it's going to take as long as Kingdom Hearts 3, but I think Kingdom Hearts 4, if we're lucky, like 2025. You know what the funny thing is? If it hits in 2025, I'll be so happy. Because I've been saying Kingdom Hearts 3 would come out in like 2025 for the longest time. And it came out in 2019 after almost close to 10 years of development. It's crazy. Kingdom Hearts 2 for the 18th time. Yo, I'm saying, man, Kingdom Hearts 2 is like my comfort food game. Like, no matter what mood I'm in, whether I'm happy, whether I'm sad, whether I've had a breakup, whether I got a promotion, I play Kingdom Hearts 2, man. It's fucking awesome. Even if they remade Kingdom Hearts 1, that would also mean removing the Tarzan world. Oh, yeah, because there was some licensing issues with that. Yeah, that's another reason why sometimes they can't really like redo certain games, because that would mean they would have to go back and renegotiate all the licenses. We'll go for a few more minutes. And I really gotta go trim this freaking beard of mine. God, you guys. I don't know why my beard is acting up today. So every single time it touches my nose, it just starts tickling it. Halo Infinite Season 2 is out and it's still dead. Well, listen, like I'm gonna keep my mouth shut on Halo, man, because every time I speak about Halo, people get upset, man. It's like I kicked their puppy or something. Kingdom Hearts 4 has to be better than 3. Oh, it will be. And this is coming from a person that knows nothing about Kingdom Hearts 4. It will be. It will be better. They can replace it with a live action Tarzan. Well, no, I don't think they need to do that. You know what the funny thing is about the first Kingdom Hearts game? Like, I don't know, like, the worst part about that Tarzan world was the platforming sections. Like, that was god-awful. But the rest of it was fine, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's fine. It's okay. It's cool. I went there. I farmed some white mushrooms. That was fun. You know, out of context, that sounds really bad. I went there and I farmed some white mushrooms. But yeah, man, yo, Kingdom Hearts comfort series for me, bro. Sony really should have bought those studios over the other studios they got, but I kind of understand Sony has franchises that they're way more profitable and successful than the games those studios did. I mean, I don't know, like, I don't think those games really would have benefited PlayStation, you know what I'm saying? Like, we like Tomb Raider and Deus Ex, but those games ain't lighting the world on fire like that, you know? Like, the only reason to be beneficial is if it's a good deal. That's the only thing. But if you look at all the studios PlayStation acquired, a lot of them are more future long-term planning. So it's stuff that's like, they talk about live service stuff. They talk about like long-term, we want these games to be a success. Now, whether or not they're going to be a success, we do not know. And then other things, I guess they're just bought because it's cheap, so they might as well do it. Like, what's that studio? Like Haven. They acquired Haven. Haven doesn't have an IP. Haven has just started working on their game, so it probably costs like the price of a Big Mac with the large fries and a Coke. Well, you know what the funny thing is? Big Macs, McDonald's has gotten expensive. I mean, I don't really eat at McDonald's. Like, I eat at McDonald's like once a year, usually just for the hash browns. But I went to McDonald's right before COVID, and I went. And we were a little tipsy, and I looked at the price of like a whole Big Mac meal with everything included. I was like, yo, this shit almost $12, bro. Almost $12. I could have gone into a restaurant and got a meal then. This shit's crazy. It's funny how literally no one from the PlayStation community mentioned Babylon's Fall even slightly. Oh, no, there were some people, like my homie Persona, God bless Persona, but sometimes he just like, there are some games where it's like, Persona, this game's gonna be ass, bro. And he's just like, nah, I'm gonna play it, man, PlayStation exclusive. And then the game comes out, it's ass, it has 8 players, and he's just like, man, listen, that's my baby right there. That's my homie, though. Shout out to Persona, but like, he did that for what was that game, Godfall? And I was like, fam, no one's fucking with this game, bro. And then when it came to Xbox, nobody was fucking with that game, bro. Like, yo, there's some games you just gotta leave it alone. You know what the sad thing is? I was kind of excited for Babylon's Fall when it originally was announced. And then when I saw the gameplay last year, I was still excited because I'm like, oh, this could work. This could be fun. It's platinum. And then we started to hear more about it. And I was like, oh no, what are you doing? Beating up Sabor in the jungle. Yo, when you beat Sabor, he got so salty. He's like, man, fuck this shit, I'm out. Which Square current announcements are you the most excited for? So right now, my most excited game that they're working on is Final Fantasy 16. It's Final Fantasy 16 because they've got all the right people working on it. They have none of the weirdos working on it. And I think it's going to be the most like well put together Final Fantasy game in a very long time. So I'm most excited for Final Fantasy 16. Bungie isn't benefiting PlayStation outside of more manpower. Well, actually, I would argue that I think Bungie's benefiting PlayStation in the sense that Bungie has something PlayStation wants, and that's the talent pool. they retain the talent pool who have an experience in live service games. And Destiny, even though it's not the biggest live service game, it is one of the most successful live service games after it took 40 years. And that's something PlayStation wants to dive into. In addition to that, they want to do the whole transmedia thing, probably a Destiny TV show or something, you know. But yeah, all that money to retain that talent to keep it going, it's a gamble, but I think it's going to pay off. Hey, Maddie, what's going on, bro? Hey, listen, no. Taco, listen, I was watching that stream, and compared to some of the other shit that they showed, I was like, yo, this looked like it could hit, bro. It could hit. It could be fun. It could be fun. And then I learned more about it, and that's when I was like, nah, I can't do this. Warren Buffett is betting that the Microsoft Activision deal goes through. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I feel like it's going to go through. I feel it's going to go through 100%. I don't think there's really going to be any roadblocks. I wouldn't be surprised if something comes out of nowhere, because I've learned in my old age to expect the unexpected expectedly. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just like, don't just assume that everything will go according to plan, because literally somebody throws a wrench in there, and that's what it is. You're just like, oh wow. And if there's one thing I have learned as someone who's just like put faith and expectations in people, don't do that. Don't do that, because you'll get disappointed, man. You'll get disappointed. So you know what? I expect it'll go through, but if it doesn't go through, that's okay too. That's where I'm at in life right now. Yo, listen, when that Final Fantasy 16 drops, y'all, I'm gonna disappear. Really why I prefer Kingdom Hearts 2 and 3 over 1, because the game doesn't tell you where to go in areas like going to Boogie's Manor, where the flying enemies, if you fuck up, you got to climb the hill again. Oh my god, bro, I hated that shit. And that was one of, I believe, the few chests in the first Kingdom Hearts game that was actually missable. I hated that shit as a child, because I remember I had got the strategy guide after I'd gotten that part in my first playthrough, and I was like, oh no, I can't get the chest. So always make sure. But wait, no. I think you could still get the chest in the floor in like the hidden dungeon type thing. I think. I might be misremembering that. But yeah, that Boogie's Mansion, like you could, technically speaking, you can go all the way to like different parts and explore versus going straight to where you have to fight the kids and then fight Boogie. Elon Musk is going to set Twitter free, especially after they banned Black Bond for accidentally misgendering someone. Yeah, I heard Black Bond got banned. I was just like, what did you get banned for, bro? And then I looked at it and I was just like, oh my god. But I mean, that's the thing these days, y'all. You gotta be careful. Gotta be careful, man. Gotta be careful. Gotta be careful, man. That's why I just be calling people, what's up, fam? That's it, fam. How y'all doing, fam? Because these days, it's like you say one wrong thing and you're canceled. Oh, so they fixed it in the re-releases? Oh, okay. I love it. Every stream there's some Kingdom Hearts fans. I fucking love it. If the deal doesn't go through, Microsoft isn't really losing. They just need to focus on the teams and studios they have and put their foot down on these studios. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, a lot of people don't realize is that Microsoft, even before the Bethesda thing, if it doesn't go, not Bethesda, Activision, if it doesn't go through, they still have a lot of studios, and what they need to do is cultivate those studios and put out really good games. Like, they have so many studios and so many teams that said studios that, theoretically speaking, we could be getting, on average, 4 major releases from Xbox Game Studios Publishing a year. 4 major releases. And that's not counting smaller stuff in between, like a grounded update or, you know, launching Halo Infinite Season 2 or 3 or whatever. So there's a lot of stuff you can do. But it comes down to managing stuff, and it comes down to making sure the teams know how to function. Like, I mean, it's not a good start when we see what's happening with freaking 343 and Halo. You know what I'm saying? But we'll see. We'll see what happens further down the road. Let's see. Yeah, you can get banned for anything. Y'all can get banned for anything these days. That's why I just mind my business when I'm on Twitter. I don't really go start fights with people. I don't really do none of that shit, because all it takes is just someone to get pissy and then they ban you. And then usually what happens is that they don't hear your side of the story. Or they just see who was the victim in this case. And that's what happens. Do you think Square will double down on blockchain NFTs in their mobile games, or will they try to incorporate them into Final Fantasy 14? If they do, it's going to suck. So yeah, I think they're going to, if they are going to introduce them quickly, it's going to be in their mobile titles. If they start doing it in the mainline titles, that's where shit can get very, 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 very disgusting. If they do it in 14, oh, that community is done. That community is done, bro. I think that in the beginning, they'll be like, all right, you know what? It's not the worst thing in the world. But if it starts getting predatory, they'll just say, fuck it, bro. We out. But we'll see. Hardy be pressing you sometimes on Twitter. Y'all back and forth be hilarious. Yo, Hardy's my dude, man. Hardy's my dude. There's always some back and forth going on. That's why I like Dave Chappelle, because he's not politically correct and does not care about cancel culture. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I don't necessarily think we should like be canceling people, you know what I'm saying? Especially if it's something so dumb as you make like a stupid, like you do something stupid and minor, and it's kind of like very, very minor in the grand scheme of things. It's not like you were racist to somebody, or you know, made really, really, really offensive jokes about somebody. Like I'm talking like legit offensive, like, dude, that's like not funny. But at the same time, I feel like everything is a learning experience. You know what I'm saying? And everything should be a learning experience in life. I think that when people start closing off everything because of, you know, one isolated thing that somebody did 15 years ago that, you know, was very, very, very minor, I don't think you need to shut them out completely and for what they have to say. I think it should be like, hey, listen, you know, this is an opportunity for growth and we're not the same person. Like I look back at the person I was 10 years ago, and you guys know this, like 10 years ago, I was a lot more rambunctious. I was a lot more animated. I was a lot more aggressive. I was just a lot like, you know what it was, like, you know how it was. But I've mellowed out in recent years. You know what I'm saying? Like ever since I want to say like 2015, 16, I really mellowed out. I'm chill. And nothing really bothers me. Like there was a time where I would get on here and I would be ranting and raving about, you know, like blah, 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 like Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Capcom and blah, blah, blah. And now I'm just like, I'll still rant about if there's any bullshit practices, but I do it in a different way. You know, so that's just me growing as a person. But I acknowledge like that's who I was at that time and things have changed. But the thing that happens is that a lot of people, everybody thinks they're perfect. You know what I'm saying? And like, yeah, like I'm not saying that you can't think you're better than somebody else, but Twitter will find it. You know what I'm saying? If you start, like, for example, whenever celebrities start talking that dumb shit, they'll be like, we found this. You know what I'm saying? Oh, man, they drag Zoe Kravitz with the quickness, bro. With that whole Will Smith, like, whatever, regardless of what you think about the Will Smith situation, the second Zoe Kravitz opened their mouth, they're just like, excuse me, child. Excuse me. Excuse me, ma'am. They need to drop Condom Heart, Sora X Kyrie. Hey, yo, I don't want to watch that. I do not want to watch that, J-World. Sir, those, no, sir. No, sir. That'd be the most vanilla thing in the world, too. If you saw the trophies in Kingdom Hearts Missing Link trailer, they could very easily be connected to NFTs. Well, I believe it. I believe it. Like I said, y'all, just, you know, when they start doing this nonsense, just vote with the wallets. That's it. Ever since you became a Chad, you've gone beyond goated. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, I'm very chill, y'all. Like, if you notice, I just don't be sticking my nose in places where I don't think it belongs, you know? So when I see people whiling on Twitter about something and they doing these back and forths, I'm just like, damn, look at them over there, bro. Look at them over there. But I'll answer a few. Oh, we went a little over, but I'll answer a few more questions. Favorite Alfonso Cuarón film? Okay, so I'm a very biased film lover. I'm extremely biased. And I know this is a basic answer, but I love Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Wow. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I love that movie so much in the franchise and just in general as a film. So yeah, it's very cliched. You know, of course he would say that. The Harry Potter fan would say that his favorite Alfonso Cuarón film is that. But just in general, I like most of his filmography. You know, Gravity was great. Roma was cool. Like he's a great filmmaker. Is it weird that I'm kind of hyped for that Chip and Dale movie of all things? No, I don't think it's weird, Maddie. I feel like, I mean, I saw the trailer. I thought it was I thought it looked kind of interesting. So we'll see. We'll see how it is. Because, you know, everything can have a good trailer. And then you come out and you're just like, wow, what the fuck was this? Yeah, Children of Men is great. Like, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. It's such a good movie. But for me, it's like, oh, Harry Potter. I know, it like just has this grasp on me. Alrighty, but I think it's about time we wrap this up, you guys. Shout out to everybody who attended this little impromptu discussion stream. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I really thank everybody for all of the discourse here, all of the discussions, just all of this stuff. As always, it is a pleasure to be in y'all's presence. Check back later in the week for Ask Neo. I haven't figured out whether it's probably gonna, you know what it is? It's probably gonna be third. Oh, actually, I don't know when Ask Neo, when that's gonna be this week, because I have a date tomorrow night. And then Thursday night is Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday I have work. Jesus, I don't want to say this will be the last Ask Neo, but we might have to skip Ask Neo for this week. But I'm going to do y'all one better. I'm going to give you a review, spoiler-free review for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness on Thursday night, because I'm seeing it at 4 p.m., which is the earliest showtime in my area, and I'm very excited about that. So yeah, I'll come back with a spoiler-free review and probably a spoiler-filled review as well. Ooh, maybe spoiler-free on Thursday and then spoiler-filled on Friday. Who knows? Neo gonna be some guts tomorrow. Listen, man, we ain't gonna discriminate. We're just gonna penetrate. But anyway, you guys, if you enjoyed the stream, hit that like button. It helps out the channel tremendously. Even though we are at 66 likes, execute order 66. I might go watch Revenge of the Sith tonight. I mean, it's about to be May the 4th. I might do that. I might fucking do that. Let's go. Let's get it. But yeah, hit that like button. It helps out the channel tremendously. Give your boy a follow on the Twitterverse at NeoGameSpark, Facebook, Instagram, Patreon, YouTube memberships. All that stuff is going to be down below in the video description. And for me to you for now, my name is NGS signing out. And like always, I will catch you guys later. Peace out, y'all. Have a good one.